So about 26 people, including a family of 9, have been killed in double bomb attacks in Hiiraan province of Somalia this week. Al-Qaeda-linked group al-Shabab is said to be responsible for those attacks after President Hassan Sheikh Mahmood declared total war on the Islamist extremists in August in response to an attack on a well-liked hotel in Mogadishu, that left more than 20 people dead. Al-Shabab has been losing momentum in recent months, or have they? Well, we're joined by senior analyst for Somalia at the International Crisis Group, Omar Mahmood. Omar, thank you very much for availing yourself this afternoon. What do we need to understand about what is happening in Somalia where security is concerned?
Well, right now, you've had a government that came into power in May after a very difficult period in Somalia where elections were overdue. And what this new government has done is essentially said, we're going to take this war to al-Shabab itself. And the way they've gone about doing that is by working more closely with local communities, particularly in central Somalia. And so this is where we've seen this happen most strongly, and this is the same area where this attack occurred yesterday, so particularly in Hiiraan state. And the government's worked with local communities, it supported them, and also then tried to expand their range of activities into other communities. You know, some of these were already upset with al-Shabab rule. In some areas, they're trying to push further. And so that has basically culminated in an advance against the group, which in Hiiraan state in particular has cleared al-Shabab from most of the areas that they were controlling prior to, a couple months ago.
What has been allowing, or the air that has been fueling the flame that gives these terrorist groups so much space in the country?
Well, al-Shabaab's always been very good about taking advantage of local grievances. You know, Somalia has a very intricate clan system that goes down to very, very many levels of sub-clans, and they've inserted themselves into that at times to play different groups against each other. Now, what's a little different now is al-Shabaab also has had some predatory tactics. You know, it demands taxation from local communities, it demands recruits for their army, and you've had some communities that for a while had tried to manage this, but had grown a bit frustrated. The environmental situation in Somalia right now, which is going through a historic drought, plays into this as well. And so you had a bit of uprising against the group from some of these communities, and al-Shabaab reacted in the way they typically have reacted, which was try to suppress it. But this time, that really kind of fueled a wider response against the group, and something that the government very much capitalized on. And so that's what we're seeing. You know, al-Shabaab does have that advantage sometimes to go into the clan network, but we're actually seeing it kind of come back against it right now.
On the issue of insecurity on the continent, yesterday we were speaking to a scientist from South Africa. They have launched an aerial spacecraft that will be orbiting the Earth, taking pictures from way up there for about 6 years, but that is for agricultural purposes. So they'll be able to take a picture, it'll tell them about the Earth, etc., etc. But also then a thought pops up in mind that they could potentially pick up other things, right? Why is it that we're failing to get a handle on this if we are able to get such technologies at such an advanced stage to pick up what is happening with the soil? Surely we could, or the continent could be better placed to check the situation. Somalia is not the exception to the rule. Nigeria, Mozambique, etc., etc.
I mean, a lot of these cases, you know, the governments have really very much failed to address local needs. In the Somali case, one that is the reconciliation between clans and sub-clans, which al-Shabaab takes advantage of. But the other part of that is the government delivering on services. And so I think what right now you've had is local communities kind of say, hey, we're sick of al-Shabaab. And so al-Shabaab's kind of lost some of those communities. The government hasn't necessarily won them. What the government's saying is, we offer you the promise of a better future. We are going to come, we're going to deliver these services, you're going to have telecommunications, you're going to have banking, you're going to have, all sorts of other electricity, water, basic sort of things, and you're going to progress further. But the problem is, if the government fails to deliver on that side, then communities start to look for alternatives once again. And so I think we've seen this ebb and flow where governments have struggled very much to expand in a positive way their writ, and especially deliver to some of these communities. Technology certainly helps. You've had technology play a role, but it doesn't replace that sort of ground connection. And so that's what's a little different this time, with the government working with the community a bit more closely. But it must follow up on these promises, otherwise, this will just be another iteration in a long struggle.
So we need not even send ships into the sky. Service delivery, essentially.
I think it's very important to focus on the needs on the ground, to be able to very much get out to some of these rural areas, to very much establish that connection between the government, basically to show them that this government promise of a better future can actually come to fruition.
Senior analyst for Somalia at the International Crisis Group, Omar Mahmood. Omar, thank you very much for availing yourself.